Now then, a new study suggests that letting toddlers play frequently on devices could put them at a higher risk of emotional and behavioural problems when they start school. The study says that if children have too much screen time before they go to school, they could have a short attention span, poor concentration, and have more trouble making friends. Well, earlier I chatted to Andy Robertson. Andy is a journalist who has written a guide for parents, and it's called Taming Gaming.
I think you read something like this and it's like, oh gosh, maybe I should stop my kids. But I think we need to talk more in detail about sort of the meat of what they're saying.
This isn't really, I suppose, the way that a young child accesses a screen is the way they access it these days is because of the tablet, the mobile phone, or the computer. But when I was growing up, we used to watch TV, whether it was when you got home from school or playgroup or children's TV during the morning, or Swap Shop or Tiswas on a Saturday morning. So that screen has always been there in the last 30, 40 years.
Yeah, and children. The study talks about preschool children, maybe 4 or 5 years old, having an hour or more. And I think because of that variety of ways that children use screens now, that's not a particularly high figure. I think really we need to ask, well, what are they doing? If they were just playing one game for the hour, but most likely they watch a bit of television, or on YouTube they maybe would Skype with a grandparent, do a fun app or game with a parent, and so that will soon add up to an hour in a day. So I don't think that's a particularly high number.
And also, at the end of the day, it's like you say, some of these games, particularly for toddlers. I'm the father of a 5-year-old, so I'm right in this bracket. I know what I live this life. Some of the games are actually really good. They're really educational, and I know that my son has picked up numeracy, for instance, by playing the number block games from CBeebies, or the alpha block games again from CBeebies. So, whenever we hear screen time, it seems to be this, it's very bad and you mustn't let your children do it or ramp up the hours. But actually, in some cases, it can be very beneficial. Yeah,
that's a really good point. And I think really we need to shift the conversation away from just saying, well, how long is too long? In the reporting around this study, a lot of reports have said, no more than an hour or something. But really, what is the child doing on the screen? And that might be, quite an educational game, like you're saying. It might be a game where they're reading a story with a parent, or they're sort of making sense of the world. Or it might be a game when they're a little older, where they're connecting with peers and friends if they can't do that in real life. So I think it's really important to sort of dig in to say, well, what's my child doing? Before we worry about how long, what are they doing on the screen? And if we can create a context where we do things together on screens, that sets them up for a healthy relationship with those going forward into older years.
And I suppose, obviously, if they think it's normal and it's okay to be able to use a screen, and don't get me wrong, my child isn't on the screen 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It is limited, maybe in a subconscious way. Actually, we don't set out and say, right, you can have your 30 minutes of screen time now. It doesn't work like that in the real world, does it? But it's something that actually is that they won't try and do it behind your back as they get older. They won't try and sneak a screen of some description into their bedroom and shut the door. So being open about it is just as important.
Yeah, I think that means that screen time becomes a normal part of family life. You do different things together. You might read books or go on walks, and one of the things you do is to maybe play some games together or read a story together on a screen. And like you say, that does create an open conversation, which can sound trivial, but in later years, if something untoward happens on a screen when your child is using it, that's crucial that they feel safe and confident that they can talk to you about that, and that you will understand, and you won't overreact and sort of say, that's it, you've got to get off the screen and we're not going to have them anymore. But you'll have a kind of a nuanced discussion with them, and together sort of work out the best way forward. So building that into, in the habits of quite young children, I think is a really powerful and important thing for parents to do.
And, there'll be people listening right now that perhaps are about to start their parenting journey. And if I cast my mind back 5 years ago, it was Well, he's not going to have a mobile phone. He's not going to be playing with a tablet. He's not going to be watching the telly. And of course, that all goes out of the window, whereas, practicalities come into play here. What's your advice to parents? And, if they're thinking about setting limits, or they're at the moment in their idealised world, they're thinking, right, no tablets, no screen time, nothing like that. What would you say to them?
I think the first thing is to understand that they can be in control. So all these devices come with very simple settings, so you can specify how long a child can play. And if you set that up with a child, then you can have a conversation to say, well, how long do you think is appropriate? How long do you want to play for before you do other things? And then it's not that you as a parent kind of policing them, but it's something the child can own together. But I think the most important thing is for parents to create a context where children can make sense of whatever it is they're doing on screens as part of family life. It has this anchoring and rooting sort of aspect to it. And the best way to do that is to play with them and to find games that you enjoy as a parent and you enjoy sharing with them. And those will change as they get older. And it does require, a bit of homework, a bit of research. But that's really worth it. We're really good at spending time, shopping and preparing meals for those meal times that we really value. And I think we can look at screen time as a similar thing, that if we prepare well, if we shop around and we find the ingredients for that's going to match our family and our child, then it can be a really healthy and a highlight of the week that we look forward to, rather than, we worry about and we sort of argue about sometimes.
Do you think perhaps we worry about what other people think too much?
Well, I think parents do get kind of stuck in the middle. Like, we're kind of expected to help technology, raise the bar for our kids, with education, raise their aspirations, give them opportunities. But at the same time, then we are sort of a bit bashed, I think, by society for don't let them use it too long. And so I think that's why kind of parents can feel a bit caught and a bit confused about what to do, because we can end up giving them quite sort of mixed and muddled messages, which is why I think just a positive, open approach to gaming and to screen time is something that's really helpful at this moment.
No, I agree with you. And also, if you think about it, I was having this conversation with my producer, Matt, this morning in the office. If we look, my son there is 5 years old, right? And he's just started primary school back in September, and they don't use blackboards or whiteboards anymore. They have a screen in front of them, and the teacher does the lessons, via the computer. And if we fast forward into his later education, so into his teenage years and his examination years, and maybe sixth form and university, and then go forward even further into the future, when hopefully he's earning enough money so I can retire. But he's working. They're not going to be using the things that we use these days. They're not going to be using pen and paper. They're not even going to be using keyboards, are they? They're going to be doing touch screens. They're going to be swiping left, right, and centre. And to get them comfortable with that sort of technology now, which is only going to progress as he gets older, it has got to be a good thing. It's got to be a positive thing.
Yeah, I think, and as with any new technology, it can seem a bit scary to begin with, and there is this kind of trend of whenever new things come along, whether that's just a telephone or the radio or video games, there's a sense of kind of moral panic of what's it going to do. But actually, as those things mature, like you're describing, they become a normal part of life. And so by not overreacting, we can prepare our kids to take advantage of this technology, and video games in particular are kind of like the media of their time. They're the way that they tell stories, and they're really well fitted to that, as we've seen, over the time when we couldn't be face to face. They've been a real positive in many families. And so helping parents navigate that now is really important, and helping them have the confidence to do the parenting in this area that they do elsewhere, isn't straightforward, and they do need support. But offering that, I think, can be really transformative.
There's a photo in our house, Andy, and it's me lying on the floor with my grandfather, and I am trying to explain to him how a video recorder works. And, we fast forward now another 10, 15 years. That role I'm going to be the old bloke lying on the floor or sitting in front of a tablet or a smartphone, and my son is going to be showing me how to do something. And that's the natural way of things, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it is to some extent. But, hearing that story, I think it can sort of trigger some parents to think, oh gosh, if whatever I do to set up screen limits or of age ratings, they'll just get around it. But I think technology's come on since the kind of those VHS recorders, and it was a classic thing, like you couldn't set it, could you? You got your child to do it. I remember doing that myself. But modern technology is designed to help parents and to guide you through that much more. And so I think it's important to underline you can set things up with a PIN number so your child can't circumnavigate that, and you can be in control. And that's a really good starting point to sometimes get the breathing space so you can have those sort of wider, more open discussions if things have got out of hand.
Yeah, my 5-year-old seems to know more about how to work the TV and which app to put on, whether it's the iPlayer or going to Netflix or what have you. And he knows that his programs are on the yellow icon when it comes onto the screen. So, it is a natural evolution, I suppose. Andy, really good to talk to you. Thank you for your time today, and all the best to you.
Thank you.
That's Andy Robertson, journalist. He's written a guide for parents called Taming Gaming here on BBC Radio Kent on this Friday lunchtime at 12:23 now.